Okay, so before I do this example, I actually need to talk to you about the definition of absolute value. The absolute value of x, okay, the absolute value of x is a function which takes in numbers. All functions take in some x value and we do something to that. So the definition is the following. The absolute value of x is equal to x if x is greater than or equal to 0. It's equal to minus x if x is less than 0. So many of you should know that absolute value of x, what it does to x, it turns the x value into the positive value. So whether you plug in 3 or negative 3, you know that turns they both turn into 3. But how does it do this? Okay, so it does it. It's not just some like magical, just make it positive. We can't do it using a sentence. It does it through a mathematical operation, and that operation is this negative. So if you put in a positive value, it actually just returns the positive value. If you put in a negative value, it acts as a negative x. So if you put in a negative value in here, if you multiply by a negative, we turn back into positive. Another way to express absolute value is the following. X squared square rooted. Note that if I plug in 2 in here, I get 2. But if I put in minus 2 in here, that's same as 2 squared and I still get 2. I put in 2 in here, I get 2. I put in negative 2 in here, I still get positive 2. That's exactly the same as the absolute value. So, from that example, I hope I convinced you that this is the same as this. Now, this is a very important fact for us to use in this question. Let's again factor out the highest power from the numerator. Okay, so inside the square root first, n to the power of 6, and you get 1 over n to the power of 6 plus 3, all over, from the bottom let's factor n to the power of 3, and you get 1 over n to the power of 3 plus 2. Using the property of square roots, we can say this is square root of n to the power of 6 okay, now let me just take this part and do it on the side here. Note that square root of n to the power of 6 is same as n cubed squared. And note that what we have is a square root, something squared and square root. That's the same as the absolute value. So we can remove this part. Actually, maybe I shouldn't scratch it out like that. We can remove this and replace it with the absolute value. Okay, so let's do that. So we can replace that with absolute value of n to the power of cubed. Okay, and the n is approaching minus infinity. Now by definition, when x is the input that we're putting the absolute value is a negative value, that's same as minus of that x. Okay, so this is the subtle and tricky part. So that right there, if you remove the absolute value, because we're putting in a negative value, it's the same thing as minus n cubed. Okay, so now we can cancel that out and make n approach to infinity, and we get 0 plus 3, 0 plus 2. So the answer is minus root 3 over 2.